we're going to take a look at how to create the gear train you see on your screen, as well as how to animate it today. So the first thing we'll want to do is start a new assembly drawing. And we're actually going to use the design accelerator. So we'll click on design up at the top here. And we're going to click spur gear. And below that, I've got a couple options for other gears, but for today it's just spur gear. First question is, do we want to save? And we should go ahead and save. So we'll say gear. In my case, it's going to be gear assembly 8. So I'll click save. Now after that, after it saves, it'll pull up the gear generator. We actually have 2 to do. So for the first one, I'm going to make gear 1 be the component, and gear 2, I'm going to make it no model. So I want a 4-to-1 gear ratio, or 1-to-4, whichever way you're looking at the gears. So that is actually calculated by me putting the teeth in. So right over here, I'll have 12, and if I want 1-to-4, then, or 4-to-1, excuse me, I'll have 12 here and 48 here. The face width is up to you. Depends on how you want to do that, how thick you want to make the gears. I'll just click OK here. And click OK again and accept. There's some errors here, but that's not going to impact us too much. That can be remedied by using the calculator, but for the sake of the video, we're just going to click accept. Now that I've done that, you can see the small gear goes ahead and it appears. This is the 12-tooth gear. I'm going to go back up to spur gear now. And this time for gear 1, I'm going to make this be a no model. And gear 2, I'm going to make the component. So I should get a 48-tooth gear out of this one. Notice the face width is still the same, and really no other variable has changed here. But let's keep an eye on that 1.25 for center distance. In fact, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and write that value down, because I'm going to need that as we progress through this. So I'll click OK, and OK again, and accept. Now that I have my big gear on the screen, I can go ahead and place it. So I've got 2 gears on the screen. Now the key is making those work together. So what we've found is to expand the origin of at least the main origin, and then the gear you're going to work with. Some people will go ahead and expand everything, but it's up to you. For now, I'm just working on spur gear 1, so I'm going to expand the origin of it. So it looks something like this. And now I'm going to go and start constraining. So I'll hit assemble. Before we can constrain anything, we need to unground the first part. Because right now this thing is grounded, which means if I try to move it, it's not going to. So I'm going to right click on spur gear 1 and select grounded. And what that does is ungrounds it, and now I can move it wherever I need to. Now I'm going to go to constrain, and mate pops up first, which is good. We are going to mate the z-axis of the small gear to the z-axis of the origin, and we'll click apply. Mine went behind there, so let me rotate it around so you can see what happened. So it's back here. Now I'm going to mate a flat plane to another flat plane. Well, let me show you what that looks like. I want to make the flat plane of this gear so I can just run my mouse over. So really, if I look at that one, I don't want that one. Then I don't want that one, but I do want this one. So I'm going to click XY plane, and I'm going to mate it to the XY plane of the origin. And I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And you see the gears kind of got all weird there, but we'll fix that now. So now I'm going to take the big gear. I'm going to go ahead and collapse spur gear 1 because I'm done with it for the time being. And I'm going to expand spur gear 2 and the origin. And now I'm going to do the z-axis of the big gear to the z-axis of the origin. And when I do that, before I click apply there, I want to use my offset. And if you remember that number I told you to write down earlier, that's the center distance. So I'm going to put that here. So 1.25 for me. I click apply. So now when I look at this thing, let's get this off the screen. When I rotate that around, something going like this. Just make those gears even. So I'm going to use the flush. So I hit constrain and went to flush. I'm going to flush these 2 gears together and click apply. Now a trick to the game here is that I need to constrain the z-axis of the big gear to a perpendicular plane. So I'm going to hit constrain. It's mate, and I'm still on spur gear 2 here. I'm going to say z-axis, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a plane that runs perpendicular. So my xz plane is the one, and I'll click apply. Now you can see this one will rotate, and this one will rotate. So the next step is really, I want to take a look at the front view of this. Well, let me zoom in a little bit. I want to kind of fiddle with this and try to get those teeth lined up as best as possible. So now what I'll do is I'm going to actually rotate this in such a way so that I can see the gaps between the teeth. Now I'll go to constrain, and this one is a different constraint than what we're used to. We're going to use a motion constraint. So I'll click motion, and I'm going to click in between the teeth on the small gear and in between the teeth on the big gear. And for ratio, I'm going to put 4 and click apply. Now exit out of that. Let's move it around here and zoom out a little bit so we can see everything. So now when I turn this, you'll notice that both gears are turning. Now, what I do want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a drive constraint in so that I can make this automated like we saw when the video first popped up. So to do that, I can choose really either gear. Since I've got spur gear 2 expanded, I'll just go ahead and use it. So I'm going to constrain, and I want to use an angle constraint this time. So angle, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a directed angle. And now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to find the plane that runs through it, so a perpendicular, so that one. And then just a plane on the origin, maybe something like this one will work. That one could work too. And I'm going to click OK, or actually I'm going to click the plane first. Now I'll click apply. Now I look at that angle constraint, and I can right click and say drive, and it starts at 0. I'll go ahead and change the end to 360, and then I hit play, and you can see it goes. I can also expand that and set it to repeat, as many times as I want to. Now, as I play that, though, you can see that something's going wrong there. All right, the big gear should not be spinning so much faster than the little gear. What I'll do is on this rotation here, where it says 4, I'm going to actually change that to 0.25, because I got them backwards. I change that to 0.25, and now let's go ahead and go back to our angle that we put in and drive it. And you can see it works just a little bit better. The small gear should be turning much faster than the big gear. We have noticed kind of a clunk in the system here. You can kind of look at the teeth right now. Let me escape out. You can kind of look at those and see that they're not perfectly lining up. What we've been able to do is on that rotation, we'll suppress that for a second. Then we'll turn the little gear, kind of line its teeth up a little better. And then we'll go back to rotation and unsuppress it. And then when we drive it, well, right now it's not going to turn, but remember it's not going to turn because we put this angle constraint in. So we'll right click that and hit drive again and hit play. And it lines up a little better. What I would recommend, go ahead and on the angle and rename that. So just click in the box. Then just call it your drive. So in the future, you know that's your drive constraint. So that is how you make a simple gear train and how to make it animated.